Welcome into Warchant TV right here. As the breaking news has happened, everybody, it's what we expected to hear today. Florida State has their man. Florida State has its new athletic director. But if you went to bed on Wednesday, December the 8th, thinking it was a certain name, it's a different name than you expected. Michael Alford has been named Florida State's newest athletic director and maybe the first athletic director with some significant power in over a decade in Tallahassee. Alongside Gene Williams, the founder and administrator of Warchant.com, Ira Schoffel, the managing editor who has been following this story for a little while now, just a little while, maybe at all hours of all days. We will be recapping the blow-by-blow of how we got here with Florida State. But before we get into that, please, everybody, if you have not done so already, hit the like button right underneath this video. Warchant TV goes live with great programming every day, and we bring you the latest breaking news all the time. When it comes to Florida State athletics, we're the place you need to be. So hit the like button underneath this video, and if you've not done so yet, hit subscribe and the bell right next to it, because every time we do bring you new content, you will be alerted. All right, Ira, so let's get to it right now. Michael Alford has been named Florida State's athletic director. This is the name that most people suspected about a month or two ago might be next in line in Florida State. Then there was a deviation the way of Louisville, Kentucky, and then it all went downhill late last night into the morning of December the 9th. So if you could let us know what gives and how do we get here?
Yeah, to what you were saying, if you had told anyone who covers Florida State or follows Florida State closely, certainly any of us, a week ago or 2 months ago or 3 months ago that Michael Alford was going to be named athletic director of Florida State, we would have said, okay, that's about what we expected. He's been here now running Seminole Boosters for about a year and a half. He's been a previous athletic director. He's been a number two guy at huge programs, so, Alabama and Oklahoma. Has been a very significant role in those athletic departments. Been with the Dallas Cowboys. He has a great resume. So really, he was a guy that a lot of us thought would be the successor to David Coburn. But once they started that national search, and we kind of caught wind of it last week, it had been going on for several weeks. And then the name, Vince. I was going to follow you guys. You and Jeff were saying David Tyree.
Yeah.
Vince Tyree, Louisville's athletic director, emerged as the name, and Florida State was going after, and they made an offer. And from what we understood, he told the search firm that he was going to come. Then this past week, we had all the machinations up at Louisville where they had to get him out of his non-compete clause and get him out of his, time of waiting. He had to have like a period of notice before he could take another job. They got him all out of all that, and then he ended up not taking the job and still resigning from Louisville. He's going into the private sector. So it's just been crazy. But now we're kind of back where we started. Michael Alford is the guy. He's going to be the athletics director of Florida State. That's what a lot of people, as we said, expected. And I think at the end of the day for Florida State, they're going to not want to focus on how we got here, but the fact that we did get here.
Yeah, Gene Williams, I'm going to suspect here, and maybe it's because I know a thing or two behind the scenes. You've seen some weird stuff when it comes to contract negotiations over the years. How do you make sense of all this, Gene? Because you've been, interconnected in the booster community with Florida State for a long, long time. So how does this play in your mind? And does Florida State kick itself for maybe hiring a search firm maybe it didn't need to hire at all at any point?
Well, I don't think it can kick itself for that. I mean, they did their due diligence on it, which I think they had to do. Is obviously everybody was shocked when Tyree's name came out a few days ago that he was, the leading candidate, and it looked like obviously everything was done for him to be hired. It's bizarre, and we may never know really the true story of how this stuff played out. But at the end of the day, Florida State got a guy that we're all very familiar with, and the guy that knows the landscape. I think that was part of the plan when he initially got here. It was kind of wasn't written down, but the understanding was, hey, come in, get the lay of the land. David Coburn is obviously not the long-term solution at athletic director. So not a surprise that he ends up, as we said earlier, as your athletic director. And I think we'll talk about this more, but I think it's a good hire. At least, a guy knows the landscape. Obviously, he's very good at fundraising. We've seen that already. The fact he's increased the annual fund, the memberships have gone way up since he's been at Florida State. We've seen the modernization of how fundraising goes with him. Obviously, he's got in-depth knowledge of facilities, everything he did with the Cowboys, in Oklahoma, Alabama, all these places. So he's got the connections. And this is going to be an interesting time going forward in college football and all of college athletics, because you get the feeling the next few years there's going to be some seismic changes to everything. And you better have a guy at the helm that knows what's going on. I don't think Florida State's had that the last few years, at least somebody with in-depth football knowledge and connections. So I think it's a little bit more secure for Florida State going forward, however these changes take place.
Yeah, Ira, Jeff and I were talking about this, and you can catch the Jeff Cameron Show right here on Warchant TV Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday starting at 1 o'clock. It's live every one of those weekdays. We were talking off the air that, if you were an optimist about this situation and you wanted to have a football analogy, you'd be optimistic because, as Gene was alluding to, this is akin to Jimbo Fisher being a head coach in waiting, figuring out the lay of the land and making relationships happen before he was named actually to the position that he was in waiting for. If you want to be pessimistic about it, you would say this would be akin to maybe the Charles Kelly defensive coordinator hire, where you're sitting right there. Maybe other names were considered before you, and then they circle back and make you the guy. Your thoughts on maybe an inkling on which way this might go in reality, and what are the next steps for Michael Alford? I would imagine, obviously, first up for the university and the boosters would be to name a director of the boosters itself to replace Michael Alford. So there's a lot to chew on there. What do you think?
Yeah, and to start backwards, I guess they are going to have a national search for the new CEO of Seminole Boosters. There's a strong number 2 that Michael Alford actually brought in for that position to replace the previous number 2, Greg Hewlin, recently, and that apparently, from everything we've heard, was a really good hire, and he certainly will be a candidate for the position as well. But I think when you look at the coach in waiting or AD in waiting kind of philosophy, I think that's what you have to hope for. That's definitely the best part of this. He's been working closely with David Coburn, director of athletics, for a year and a half. He's been in part of all of their conversations about everything they do. He's been, Seminole Boosters historically has been kind of divided from the athletics department. All they did was raise the money and take part in some big picture planning, but not necessarily in the day-to-day running of the department. Michael Alford's been a little bit more involved in the day-to-day running. He's been in all the meetings. He knows all the staff. So from that standpoint, yeah, he would be able to come in, hit the ground running, have a vision of what he wants to do, and not need to figure things out. On the flip side of that, there's still going to be change. So from the one standpoint, you have somebody that knows the lay of the land. It should be pretty seamless. On the other side, just like it would have been if you hired an athletic director from outside, there's going to be a lot of change. He's going to do things differently than David Coburn did. He's going to have a different management style. It wouldn't surprise me at all if you saw turnover in the athletics department and maybe even in some coaches, because this is what happens when you change athletic directors. We didn't see that when David Coburn stepped in, because he wasn't, as you said, like the big powerful AD who was coming in to set a new vision. He was kind of a caretaker to get through some tough times. But I think that part, I think a lot of people in athletics are right now there's some anxiety because they want to see how it's all going to play out. But I think from a big picture standpoint, at least you now have somebody that can come in and really set a vision for the department. And Michael Alford is definitely a guy that has a vision and will look to execute it.
So, Gene, you kind of alluded to this before, and I think I know what you're going to say here. But in short, is this a good day for Florida State athletics?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because I think we've all been talking about forever. It seems like you've had, for whatever reason, you haven't had a quote-unquote a real athletic director. There's someone that actually has the power, that does everything, knows football, knows facilities, knows fundraising, has connections, all those things, and has, as Ira said, a vision. I don't know if you've really had that guy in there since Dave Hart, so you have that in there now. So I think it's absolutely good. Not that Tyree might have been that guy too. I don't know. But I do know it's an upgrade. This isn't an affront to David Coburn, because David Coburn was put in there for a specific reason, and that was more or less to balance the budget. And he did what he had to do there, but he was not the long-term solution. So I think this is the long-term. We'll see if it's the solution, but it's the right direction for this program to go, considering what's in front of it. So I do think it's a good day for athletics to move forward to the next level. And he's going to do the one thing I think FSU needs. And we all know that it's to raise funds to deal with the finances. And he's already been doing that with the Seminole Boosters. So I think it's an excellent transition.
Just to follow up on that real quick, Tom, sorry because I wasn't sure where you were going to go next, but I did want to follow up a couple of the qualities that, for people that haven't gotten to know Michael Alford since he's been at Florida State, say maybe you're not a booster, you're not touching the athletic department. But a couple of the qualities I think that stand out about him. Number one, he is a very good planner and executor of plans. If you go in there and check out their operation, for a long time, Seminole Boosters was kind of seen as, for better or worse, kind of the good old boy network. It was kind of they did things the way they did it for a long time, and it was successful. But he's kind of brought them into the new era. He's, if you just walk in their department, you'll see the differences in terms of how meticulous they are about setting goals, being driven by goals, being metrics, and all those types of things. So I think that's a positive. Another thing about him is Gene was alluding, he is very connected. And so this is a guy that has been at some of the biggest universities in the country, and has been on committees, national committees. He's very connected with the new commissioner of the ACC, Jim Phillips. I mean, so all those things I think are really positives as well.
Well, and one other thing too, Florida State can save a few bucks on a jet. They didn't have to send one out to Louisville, Kentucky today, that's for sure. We got to remind you, everybody, because everything is happening at once. If you thought the news cycle is going to slow down when Florida State was done playing football for the season, you were sorely mistaken. There are recruits being visited. There are transfers that are entering the portal every day of significance in the state and outside the state. And there's more. So there's a lot to crunch on. With the athletic director hire, we'll have a press conference in the coming days. Warchant TV will have you covered with all of that. And Michael Alford's first address to the university as the sitting athletic director at Florida State. His start date, by the way, is January 3rd. But we need to remind you about the recruiting, everybody. Next week, the beginning of early signing day, there it is. Wednesday, December the 15th, we have a 7-hour program for you. It's brought to you by our friends at ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. It's National Signing Day Live. This is when all of the work that Michael Langston has put in for years with some of these names comes to fruition. Do they say yes to Florida State or do they not? It begins 8 a.m. Wednesday, December the 15th. We'll be going for 7 hours. It'll be 5 hours of Aslan, Michael Langston. Other members of Warchant will stop in as well at 1 o'clock. If you like the Jeff Cameron Show, it's going to be right there. You don't have to click to a new window. It's going to be all in the same place. And in the interim, if you're catching this on the evening of Thursday, December the 9th, 7 p.m. tonight on Thursday the 9th, we have a live recruiting chat. There'll be another one, a signing day preview on Monday at 7 p.m. So we've got you covered wall to wall here at Warchant TV. Hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Hit subscribe. You're going to want to, and hit that bell because there's a lot of live coverage coming for you in the coming days right here on Warchant TV. For Ira Schoffel, the managing editor of Warchant.com, Gene Williams, the founder administrator of Warchant.com. My name is Tom Lang. I'm the director of original content here at Warchant and Warchant TV. We'll catch you next time right here on Warchant TV.